Hey, this is Dr. Drew. And did you know that up to 84% of people with irritable bowel syndrome will test positive for SIBO? So yes, you heard me right. It could be a very high chance that your IBS is actually caused from a condition called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Now, what the heck is that? It's exactly what it sounds like. It means there's a bacterial overgrowth occurring within your small intestine. Now, why is this a problem? Well, the big issue is your small intestine is the major site of digestion, breakdown, and absorption of your food. If you have too much bacteria there, the bacteria will mesh with your food and fiber and spit off and release gas, cause maldigestion, tons of bloating, distension. It can also then trickle up into the stomach and cause GERD and dysfunctions with the lower esophageal sphincter. Sometimes you'll see high levels of anxiety in SIBO patients. You can also see skin issues or rashes, so keep an eye out for that. And it will absolutely cause either constipation, diarrhea, or an alternating sort of presentation of both. So it's probably a good reason why you have IBS. There's something off in the system. There's some sort of an imbalance going on. So the workup for SIBO is a 3-hour at-home breath collection test. You're gonna blow into bag collection device. You're gonna collect in test tubes, 10 separate samples every 20 minutes for 3 hours. This will give us an idea. This is how we quantify how much gas your body is producing, because if you have too much bacteria in the small intestine, you're going to be producing too much gas on this breath test. And the way we check it is you consume a non-digestible sugar alcohol that does get digested up by the bacteria. They'll digest it up and spit off gas, and then that's what you blow out. The day before the test, you have to do a specific diet, just a few basic foods. So you do kind of a prep diet the day before, and then you wake up morning of, have some water, and then for 3 hours you're collecting your breath samples. Very important, because once we have the information, is it hydrogen dominant? Is it methane dominant? Or, is it both? The reason this is important is because this helps us select the treatments, whether it's going to be specific antibiotics or herbal extracts. Typically, if someone has too much methane in their system, it's like throwing the emergency brake on the system. And when that gas gets released in your small intestine, it'll cause chronic constipation. Now, with the H2 or the hydrogen dominance, that can usually trigger excessive bowel movements and more of a rapid speed of motility as the food moves through your system. So not always, but generally speaking, that's what you'll see with those kind of cases. And so if we can eradicate, kill, and lower the hydrogen producing species and the methane producing species, we can achieve better balance in the small intestine so that you can digest, absorb, and break your food down and not be dealing with all these horrendous symptoms every time you do it. And the keynote with these SIBO cases is they'll sometimes be better with antibiotics. They'll sometimes have a history of illness while traveling or food poisoning, and that can kind of just set the system off, and it's never the same since because of whatever bacteria you ingested just kind of threw things off, and it's not been the same since. Or maybe they'll be worse with probiotics, because you can appreciate if you have too much bacteria in the top half of your digestive system, taking excessive amounts of probiotics or beneficial bacteria, it's not going to help. In fact, it's like throwing gas on the fire. It's going to make it worse. That comes later. You want to do some clearing out, some weeding before you do the reseeding. You can't reseed on top of weeds. You got to get the weeds out first. So eradication happens, usually takes anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks of herbal antimicrobials, antibiotics as needed, lots of liver support, because the die-off that can happen when you're doing the eradication can overwhelm the system, and you can get like queasiness and nausea and headaches and stuff. So extremely important that you do liver support during, so your body can mop up all this stuff that's happening from the eradication. Then you can talk about restoration and reseeding and repopulating with beneficial bacteria, but you can't do that first, okay? Another way you can determine if SIBO is a problem is you can go on a low-FODMAP diet. Now, this is not a treatment, it's more of a diagnostic. So people might feel better when they go on low fermentable fiber diet. And if you notice a huge improvement in symptoms, and you're less gas and bloating and just feels a little more stable, pretty good sign that it'll benefit once you get those bacterial levels down, because it's not a very long-term sustainable thing to be eating that way. Sometimes we'll use it as part of the recovery phase for just like a month or two. So that's where the eradication will come in first. Then you can talk about that after. And that's why the testing is important, because then okay, do I need the rifaximin antibiotic, or do I need specific berberine extracts or freeze-dried garlic extracts, Alamax, allicin, that kind of stuff, based on which one's high and how high are we talking. That helps us select which ones we need. And I always tell people we have an ace up our sleeve. If we need to pull out the big guns and do a rifaximin, metronidazole, and neomycin, you can go there. I do like to do it primarily with herbs, but if the hydrogen overgrowth is through the roof, then we definitely consider throwing in some rifaximin because it works very well. It's 99+% not absorbed, so it just kind of tunnels its way through your system and does its thing. And the herbs have so many other cool side effects and supportive things they do with the digestive system. So that's why it's good to do, I think, a blend of both. Diet of choice during this, I usually go for the paleo diet. It just kind of keeps the bugs alive so that when you're sending the eradication elements down, whether it's the antibiotics or the antimicrobial herbs, it just has a good kind of combination when you're doing it with a paleo diet. It keeps the bugs active, so when you send the ninjas down, they can do their thing. So, if you're dealing with IBS, if you're struggling, or you think you might have SIBO and you haven't been tested, just send me a message below, drop me a comment. I'd be happy to connect and help you with this. This is one of the most common things that I'm doing with people to set their digestion straight, and I'll hear things after even just as little as 4 weeks is my gut hasn't felt this good in years. I never thought I'd get back to this. And because it's the hub of health, and once you digest and absorb your food, it goes into your bloodstream, and your bloodstream goes everywhere. You gotta make sure this system is looked after, okay? So yeah, if any of that rings true to you, if you need help or you have more questions, drop me a comment below and I'd be happy to connect.